Welcome to Black Hat 2026. I'm Jackie McGuire, and joining me today is Kaushik Shanadi. He is the CTO and co-founder at Helmet Security. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about what Helmet does.
So it's a agentic security platform to help you discover, monitor, and secure your AI agents, but not just the agents, everything that they're connecting to. So MCP servers, skills, CLI tools, command line, whatever an agent has access to, we'll discover it and then help give you guardrails and policies to actually keep those agents in line or outright just stop them from doing what they're doing.
I imagine that's top of mind for a lot of organizations as they're dabbling and trying to figure out what they're doing with agents. What's your background? How did you end up at Helmet?
So I started at a large financial company right out of undergrad. They had a college hire program, did that for 2 years, found my way into the cyber department, and that's kind of how I got my foot into cybersecurity. For about the last 7 to 8 years, I've been bouncing around various startups, built security programs, was the chief architect of the previous one. It was more around browser security, and as MCP started to take off, I started to dabble with it, figure out that there's a whole host of security issues with MCPs, but then right after that, you had skills, you had hooks, all these things that are coming out around the agentic ecosystem, and it just felt like there was like an opportunity to build something in that space to actually help organizations get that stuff under control.
So you got sick of having any type of time off and decided to found a company?
Apparently, yeah. Going from startup to startup, yeah, I guess I'm just have that itch to just build something.
Yeah. So there's this weird tension in the enterprise because in order for AI agents to be able to do what you want them to do, you have to give them access to sensitive things, the type of things you would give humans access to, but agents move much faster than humans, right? So they're harder to stop. So what kind of risks is that introducing as you give agents access to like lateral movement that they would not have had before?
Yeah, and I think we've seen it several times, like the OpenAI Hugging Face. Anthropic has several incidents now. As it started, LLMs were just taking text in, spitting text out, taking a prompt, spitting out an image. But now we've moved past that. We're connecting them to databases, file systems, SaaS applications. Practically anything that we've built over the last 50, 60 years, we're now giving agents access to that. They can interact with these systems at breakneck speeds, faster than a human can. So it's almost impossible to do active detection and prevention without having guardrails in place. So things like an agent deleting someone's database, we've seen that. An agent using tools on the system that the user never told it to give itself root access. So we're seeing these agents act on their own in a way because they're trying to accomplish a task.
Yeah. And as we're trying to put some guardrails around that, because with the velocity at which agents move, by the time them doing something potentially problematic happens, triggers an alert, it gets to the SIM and somebody looks at it, it's too late, right? Because they've already broken out. So we have a lot of companies that are building kind of point solutions for this.
Yep.
But you end up with all these different kind of disparate solutions. So from your perspective, is that the right move? No.
It's just like everything else. You need a defense and depth strategy. Mm-hmm. You have AI identity solutions. You have AI endpoint solutions. You have AI network-based solutions like gateways. All those things are great, but if you can't marry all of them up and build a complete picture, you're going to have a blind spot. Like someone logs into an AI website that they shouldn't be, you're blind to that without like network or like IDP logs. Someone downloads a agent on their machine, you need EDR telemetry. So agents are running across endpoints in the cloud, SaaS applications. So the sprawl is pretty wide. So you need to have a complete picture and a way to map where all the things tie together, whether it's a user that spins up an agent that does its own sub-agent. So you have to have the complete picture to actually see what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I imagine with AI-powered asset discovery and things like that, point solutions that have holes between them, it's also much easier for adversaries to find those holes now, right? Like you used to have to, I always say like what used to protect enterprises was kind of that their data was a disaster.
Yep.
So the attackers were also looking for needles in haystacks, but now they have magnets for those needles and it's much easier to find them. So you said defense in depth, but I think sometimes when security leaders hear that sounds like a very complex and expensive thing to deploy. So what's the strategy there for being able to do defense in depth without adding a massive amount of overhead and operational burden?
So they already have a lot of these tools that they've purchased over the last 10, 20 years, like IDPs, EDRs, network proxies, firewalls, gateways, a lot of these same tools, they collect the data that these agents are sending or manipulating. So just kind of tying those things together is that next step. So right now you have IAM teams managing their IDP, you have network teams managing that. Everyone kind of works in their own silo, so you need a way to have everyone talk together and have a comprehensive view of what's going on in your environment to actually see that defense in depth. So you don't need to go out and spend a bunch of money on new tools. You already have that. You already have the data. You just need to tie those things together and build that like that complete picture.
And how does Helmet approach that?
So that's I very initially started with our own endpoint agent, but every CISO I talked to they were just like, no, we just don't want that. So we reapproached it and looked at what's already out there, and you have to give a lot of credit to Wiz with the whole agentless approach of using what enterprises already have. We want to meet them where they are instead of forcing them to meet us. So we plug into all of their existing stacks like EDR tools, network logs, IDP logs. We can deploy our own sensors, our own extensions and stuff, but using what they already have, it's a much better and much shorter time to value where we can go in, find out what their agents are doing, and then give them controls to orchestrate into those systems.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think with RAM prices as high as they are, it is getting harder and harder to get people to install additional agents on endpoints because they don't often have the memory for that, and they can't just go out and buy it anymore.
Right.
So there are a lot of kind of myths around agentic security, and because this is a new frontier and we're all trying to develop things as fast as possible, what do you think are some of the bigger ones that are problematic and may hold enterprises back from having that kind of comprehensive solution to security?
The biggest one we've seen is they'll often say, we've locked it down, or we know where all of our agentic activity is, but then we'll run a small trial with them, and within the very first discovery, it's why is this user running this agent? Why is this agent on this device? Why is someone spinning up a cloud agent on this SaaS application? So there's always these blind spots that they think they have it under control, but developers, not just developers, you have workforce that are just savvy and smart, and when and similar to agents, when you tell them to get a task done, they're going to do what they can within the bounds that they have. So the biggest thing is getting out of that mindset of we've locked everything down, because then you're stopping your engineers and your workforce from being able to get that 10x, 100x on their actual work. So I think it's a combination of those two things.
Yeah, and I always think taking the approach of trying to lock things down can be problematic in and of itself.
Right.
Because everybody's got mobile devices, right? And a lot of enterprises have a bring your own device for mobile devices, and I always tell them, if you don't give people a safe place to do risky things, they're just going to take their phone, and you can't really, that's a data exfiltration that you can't monitor in any way. If they're like, well, fine, I'm just going to use a tool on my phone and start taking proprietary enterprise data and moving it off-prem, through my fingertips.
Right.
How do you think about, so one of the things I think is tough is developers. We love developers. Yep. They make everything work, but they also do have access to a lot of times install anything that they want. So what do you think is an effective strategy for managing that tension of giving developers access to all the things they need, enabling them to use agents, but we really still haven't 100% sorted out identity yet for NHIs, and there are these machines doing human type things. So what is the most effective strategy for managing your kind of high risk users that have access to lots of assets?
Yeah, and I think it goes to the principles of least privilege, where you just give them the access that they need without over provisioning them. Having a good governance program and policies to say, you're only allowed to run this agent, you're only allowed to use these MCP servers. When you're using skills, you have to go through an official registry. You can't just download them from the internet. So having those governance controls, I think, in place will go a long way in enabling these developers to actually utilize these agents to the fullest extent.
Yeah. So if you're a CIO and you're starting today and you're starting to deploy AI within your enterprise, what do you think are the first couple steps you need to take to get controls in place?
I think just having that inventory mapped out, what agents are out there, what MCP servers are out there, who's downloaded skills, who's sharing those skills around. And then from there, once you have that inventory, start to put in some basic monitoring to see what these agents are doing, what prompts are being put in, are users putting in PII, are they putting in sensitive information like secrets, API keys into these agentic tools. Once you have the visibility and the monitoring, then you can start to evolve and say, only these users can access these MCP servers, only these users can access this MCP server, but they can only use these tool calls. So you can start to gradually build that up where until you've done that visibility, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. So it's Black Hat. As you're walking around the show floor, what are you looking for? Like, are there things that you're particularly interested in or trying to find out what other people are doing?
It's more just trying to figure out how to cut through the noise. I think with these agentic coding tools, anyone can spin up a product within days, months.
Yeah.
But before it would take years to get something polished up and actually out there. Now you have a new startup being announced every week, a new product being announced every other day. So trying to figure out how these products are different from one another is, I think, the biggest thing for me.
And then if you were, I'm going to ask you a theoretical question. So if you were a student today coming out of school and you're trying to get your feet under you in the world, what would you do differently than you did the first time around now in the age of agentic AI?
That's tough.
Because I get asked this question a lot. I speak at colleges a lot, and kids are like, what should I be doing? Comp sci security,
Right.
Kids coming out of college. And I'm like, well,
I think it's still knowing the underlying fundamentals, knowing how to write software, because anyone can use these LLMs to generate code, but if you don't understand what you're doing, you're eventually going to run into, it's basically like a house of cards. That house of cards will eventually tumble. So having that good computer science background, knowing the cybersecurity, knowing how to scale things, that'll actually help you ship good product that people will want to use.
yeah, I talk about that a lot in terms of like resiliency.
Right.
And, I think some of becoming over-reliant on AI, it becomes almost a single point of failure.
Yes.
So if you hit something where a model has a critical vulnerability and you have to turn it off, or especially as we're starting to integrate it into SOC operations, it's like, do your tier one analysts actually understand what's happening behind the agent and why? Because if you hit a situation where you have to pull everything offline or you have to start manually triaging alerts, there has to be some way to bridge that skill gap of, oh, something's dispositioning alerts for me, but do I understand why? Do I understand the underlying security fundamentals behind that?
Well, and you've seen it with people run out of their session for the day, and they're just stuck, and they literally cannot work because they rely on the AI too much. And then on the other side of it is, I think we saw it with the Hugging Face where they couldn't put in their incident report into OpenAI or Anthropic because the safeguards kicked in.
Yeah.
So then they had to use a open weight model. So, I think we're going to run into this more frequently where either the usage limits will hit faster or the guardrails will kick in, especially for cybersecurity related things that will need some other way around it. And I think all the things that we've built in the last, 30, 40, 50 years for cybersecurity, they're still relevant. It's just that they're not being utilized for the AI space the way that they need to be.
Yeah. In my day job, we emphasize a bring your own model approach where you can kind of unplug one model and plug one in. And I think the Hugging Face thing, I was like, wow, I knew that this was a good idea, but it didn't ever occur to me that your model may very well prevent you from doing the response that you need to do. Right. So being able to use an open weight model, or we focus a lot on guardrails, but they can also be a limitation, which I don't think is necessarily something that intuitively you think about, and that the same things that are trying to prevent people from doing bad things can keep you from responding to those bad things.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Kaushik, thank you so much for joining us. This has been amazing. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. If you want to learn more about helmet security, you can visit securityweekly.com/helmetbh. And for full Black Hat 2026 coverage from the Cyber Risk Alliance, visit securityweekly.com/Black Hat. Stick around. We'll be back just after this break with more interviews.